Hello, everyone, and welcome to Communism Survivor. I am your host, Mark Renahan, with my co-host, Joy Vatrabek, and today's very special guest, Miss Alla Kramer, is joining us. Alla is originally from the USSR and came here as one of the very first exchange students. She went to Iowa and ended up finding her husband and remaining here. And today we are going to hear her story and have a little bit of fun. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Alla. Alla, how are you? And thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
It is our pleasure. Now, you are originally, obviously, from the USSR, so I thought maybe we would discuss your childhood and how you ended up coming to the United States.
All right. Well, during my childhood, of course, I was growing up during Cold War and never imagined being here one day, which is kind of interesting. The first time I came here in 1991, like you mentioned, I was one of the first foreign exchange students that came to U.S. and our university had a program, or I guess the contract with University of Northern Iowa. That's why I ended up going. And it was just a 6-month program. I went back home. And then in 93, I actually came back to get my master's degree at the college. And that's when I stayed. And I think the reason is back in middle of 90s, when the collapse of the Soviet Union, that was very clear that there is no future there. And my parents encouraged me to come back to U.S. and try to build life here. And
well, at least now, when you went right to Iowa from Russia, the weather was very similar, I think, with the cold. So
Actually not.
No?
No.
So if where you were from, the weather was different?
Yes, I'm from St. Petersburg. I think at that time it's called Leningrad. Because the proximity to the Baltic Sea, it's very mild winters and very mild summers. So I'm telling you, Iowa winters are brutal.
I know, yes, no, as a
So
Northeasterner.
it's a lot colder.
All right, so now let me ask you a question. Growing up, how was it? All right, how was school when you were a young girl going to school in Russia? What was it like? I know that you were obviously been here forever. Mm-hmm. You have an education background. You used to be a teacher, I think, at one point, if I got that correct. So maybe you could compare to me your experience as a young girl going to school compared to kids today in America. Well, maybe all from when you were younger teaching to now today in America, but just like to compare the two educational experiences for those watching.
Education system in Russia was like everything else, controlled by government. There was no choices. Basically, it was a good and bad thing, to be honest. The good thing is, let's say, the school starts all across the country on September 1st. Still does, actually. It's a big holiday. So they just started school.
I didn't know that.
And it's the same curriculum all across the country. So if you move from one town to the other, you can catch up exactly where you end up. So in a way, it was, the teachers had no choice of what to teach. Obviously, we never had choice in anything. But from child perspective, that's the only way of living I knew. I didn't know there is a better way. So, of course, everything was Communist Party. Before people joined Communist Party, like in the middle school, it was Komsomol, like a young communist. And then before there was a pioneer. You can see all my childhood pictures. We have like a red handkerchief around your neck, and that was a big ceremony to become young pioneer, which will lead to communism. So it's kind of from childhood they're teaching you to be member of the Communist Party.
All right, so I have not a strange question, but do you remember? I'm assuming you do, but so like when I was young, Joy, I had like social studies, I had science, I had English, I had what else do we have? Art, yeah. But
same thing.
You had the similar classes,
yeah, like
art,
math,
science.
Yeah. The only thing that what's mandatory in Russian schools, which I find interesting not here, is a foreign language. So that's mandatory in all schools. The only thing there is a different if it's the emphasis on the foreign languages, or if you want to have your future connected with that. So you start at the 2nd grade. Otherwise, it's 4th grade. I'm sure it might have changed now. I've been here for almost 30 years. So it might have changed, but that's what it was back then.
Is that where you learned English?
Yeah,
So
second
so
grade.
they start. Okay, so that I actually do agree with that. I do think that
Yeah.
learning a second
Absolutely.
But I
language.
think here it's not till high school, right?
I think I was in middle school when we were given a choice, and we were
But
given
it's not a mandatory. Yeah.
Right.
and we were given a choice, and it was also the choices were French and Spanish. We didn't have,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
I'm not really sure what a young Mark would have liked besides those two. And I, at the time, I think I took French because I liked
French as
croissants.
well.
And I said to myself, you know, a delicious croissant. It might be nice to order that in French, but
I wanted to go to Paris.
it,
so I'm with you.
it never
Yeah.
went to that point. So okay, but anyway, so elementary school. How does the school work? So here, you know, as everyone who might be watching know, we have kindergarten, we have elementary school, middle school, high school. Similar in the
Similar, yeah. You know, but when I was going, it was a 10th grade. And minimum was 8. And after 8th grade, you have a choice, which actually when I was running for school board here, I was promoting that. We had a choice after 8th grade. You either go continue your education, 9th and 10th high school, and then go to college, or maybe you feel like college is not really for you. So after 8th grade, it's still considered high school diploma, but then you go to trade school and learn a trade. So you don't push yourself if you're not academically advanced to continue 2 more years to make a struggle, and then you know you're not going to go to college.
No, and I couldn't agree more because there are people who, in the U.S., it's kind of been ingrained. You have to go to college to
Correct.
succeed. I come from Boston where the trades are very big, and I have friends of mine who got out of high school, joined the trades, and are very wealthy, successful people. And that's something that, why waste your time in school
Correct.
because you think you should be there when that. But I have some more questions. So
Money-wise, too.
how about like we had to take gym when I was, you know, did you guys
Yeah.
have physical fitness? But did
Yeah.
you also have
No,
sporting
I
teams
never
in high
liked
school?
it. I
Never liked
hate it.
physical fitness?
No, I
No?
hated it. I hated it.
Now, did you have like, okay, so you go to high school, I know, I'm making this up, it's St. Petersburg High School.
Correct.
Okay?
Whatever. It had
Yeah, whatever it
numbers,
was.
okay.
Yeah, okay, so did you guys have a hockey team that played against the other hockey teams? from
No.
other No.
I don't. No, I don't think we. No, we don't. We didn't have a high school teams like you do sports.
They don't?
I guess we don't. See, it's been. I already start forgetting a few things. You're right. Thanks for reminding. No, it wasn't like that. But the curriculum was basically you just go to the gym, you do whatever
Push-ups,
exercise,
sit-ups, whatever, yeah.
basketball. During winter, because it's snowing outside, we always did outside like skiing, but it was like cross-country skiing. There was no hills in St. Petersburg. You just go in the park and just go around or go around school. I know I hated that because then
I've
you have-
tried it before.
Well, because you have to go to school, and let me remind you, we did not have school buses. We don't have. We have
There's
public.
no school buses.
No, there's no
Oh,
school. It's
okay.
a public transportation. So if you live close by, you have to haul your skis, your uniform, and everything with you
On the bus, too.
on
which-
the public transportation bus. So, oh goodness, no,
All
it
right,
was
so
not fun.
Another question. So I know that here in the United States, there's been a little bit of a controversy over when I grew up. Joy growing up, we always did the National Pledge of Allegiance when we started the day. And when you were in school, did you guys start with was there a Russian national anthem or a pledge or anything like you would
There
do
is
in the
national
morning?
anthem. No,
I know I actually enjoy the Russian national anthem. It's a good song, but
Yeah.
it's got a good beat to it. It was in the movie Red October. But anyway,
I love that movie.
it's a great movie. But
I think they changed the wording now,
They-
but it's the same
before-
music.
okay. I just like Sean Connery. It's a good movie, but
exactly.
no. So they didn't. You didn't start the day like you know.
No.
So did you? You said you had a Communist Party class like though, like you know.
No, I didn't have a class. It was just more like I don't want to call it extracurricular activity. It's just you just I guess you just I can't even put it in the right words. You just expect it automatically. You're born to be a future member of your Communist
yeah,
Party.
and they don't know any other thing different.
Correct.
I have a question. Did you have to do any kind of military experience or
Very good.
training?
Yes and no. So it's part of the government, and again, I'm not sure if it's still that way, but while I was growing, we're going back to my childhood, yes, all men were required, it was a requirement, mandatory enlisting in service. So after you graduate from high school, if you did not go to college, you automatically will enroll, and they will actually come knock at your door and say, okay, you turn 18, it's time for you to enlist and go to, I think it was 2-year military service. If you go to college, you will still have to do it, but you can do it after college, and you enlist as a officer. So it's a little bit better. So I think partly why people would go to college, to not to go as what's it called, private?
Enlisted, yeah.
Private,
Yeah,
so
to go
you're
as an
off-
officer.
It's similar here
Yeah,
too.
it is.
Okay,
yes.
but
We're now forced
it's
to-
it's mandatory, and because it was during period of Cold War, we were always living in the fear, or our government, that someday we might have a war with the United States. So everybody, regardless, women and men, were trained to be ready to go to war if needed. So when I went to college, which was being a teacher, my background is a teaching degree, so it was a teacher training college. However, for 2 years we had medical training because we were expected to go to war, being a medical personnel. So, which none of us liked it because we kept saying, if I want to be in medical field, I'll go to medical college.
Yeah.
It's not us, and it was very in-depth training. So I actually probably could have be working as a nurse here if I wanted to. And they train in high school. We used to be trained to use AK-47 rifles.
Really? And everyone was trained to do
Oh,
that.
absolutely, everybody. This is probably one class that you guys don't have, besides math and whatever literature. We had what they called early military preparation class, and that's when we would AK-47, how to use it, how to clean the gun, how you learn to shoot, everything like that.
We had
Everyone.
we had a similar class. It was called gym, and we played bombardment, and we threw balls at one another as hard as we could. So it was very bad for some people, though, because I recall specifically that I would, and some of my larger friends, we would pick on the smaller members of the other side and whip those rubber balls off each other's heads. We did not get AK-47s, thankfully, because I'm afraid of what we might have done with them. Anyway. All right, so that is actually quite fascinating because I have never spoken to anyone who could give me the experiences.
Don't ask me
of,
to shoot AK-47. Now I wouldn't remember.
When we're done here, actually, I have brought an AK. No, I'm kidding. We're going to go out back for some time. We are in Florida. No. So, all right.
Only the men were required to go into the military. for
Yes,
years.
but the women were like in college. I had to, in a way, it was a military prep because I was supposed to be a nurse in case of war. So like I said, high school, everybody had to do the military prep or whatever you call it with the AK-47 and study. Maybe we even started studying grenades. I mean, I don't remember right now, but it was a whole class, so we had to learn something else besides.
Yeah, besides AK-47, yeah.
So must have been some, but obviously I didn't pay too much attention.
Okay, so now you're out of high school and you're in college and you go to Northern Iowa University. That's your first stop. So a young Alla, how old were you when you first got here?
19.
So you're a 19-year-old Russian in Iowa. What was your when you first got off the plane, what'd you fly into? Do you remember?
It was a little town, Waterloo, Iowa. There's a home of John Deere factory. They build tractors there. It was late at night, lots of snow. It was January. I got off the plane, it was dark, snowy, and nothing around.
You must have been like, America, yay!
I don't know, like, where am I? Because, being from St. Petersburg, it's compared to probably like New York here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're landing in the middle of nowhere.
Of Iowa.
Iowa, nowhere.
So that's, all right, so you get there. Now, are you with other
There's
Russian?
10 of us, yes.
Okay.
A group of 10 students.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming you guys were a team, friends right from the beginning, and so then you met your husband, I believe, while you were there?
At that time, actually, I was dating his roommate. I didn't meet him at that. I did meet him, but it wasn't. We did not get connected at that time. He was going to college, but I was actually, like I said, dating his roommate.
All right, so you first get here, and while you're first here, what was your comparison, and how? I guess what's the right word I'm looking for? How did you like it here at first?
Yes, and I think that's when you're already 19, you're not a 5-year-old, you look differently and you're like, wow, there is that fascinating world outside
Of
Soviet Union, or at that time was Russia. And again, rewind a little bit, like back in 90s, right at that time, it was a very difficult times in Soviet Union. It was the collapse of Soviet Union. It was separate countries. It was the country, Russia itself. That was the time of that inflation was extremely high, shortage, empty shelves at the stores, shortage of food supply. They had a coupon system for foods and goods. Actual I'm sorry you missed my meeting when I spoke about it. I actually showed people a coupon. There will be a coupon saying, let's say, sugar, 2 pounds, and the date, May of 1990. So you go to the store and you actually just allowed 1 pound or whatever it was at that time. So the times were really difficult in Soviet Union. So there we are, 10 of us came to America, and we go to Walmart, and there's everything. If you ever saw the movie Moscow and Hudson,
yes.
the best part that I think is fascinating and can we all relate to is when Robin Williams went to the store. They asked him to go to the store and pick up some coffee.
Yeah.
And he walks in, there is like coffee, coffee, coffee. The whole aisle of coffee. And he's never seen anything like that before in his life, because if it's coffee, it's just one type of coffee.
It's the type of coffee they have. Yeah.
So I think this is kind of, that scene in the movie describes exactly how we all felt, because we go to the store and there's everything and anything you can imagine. So it was a fascinating trip.
Okay, so now you're a student
Yep.
in college, and you were here for 6 months at 1st?
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
then,
one semester, yeah. January through May, I believe. Yeah.
and then you went back, and then you came back over and stayed for good? Is that
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so now you're back over here, and you're here for good, and you meet your husband.
That's when we met
That's
again.
when you met the second time around.
Second time.
All right, you didn't make the mistake the second time. You grabbed him up. Excellent.
So is that why you came back?
No, actually, it was we ran into each other and kind of like, I think I met you 2 years ago
Okay.
before, so because it's same town, and by that time he graduated, but we had mutual friends and kind of like ran into each other.
So from St. Petersburg to Iowa, it could be like a novel. So, all right, so
Yes.
you're now there, and how long did you live in Iowa for?
Goodness, 10 years maybe? Let's see. Yeah, about 10 years.
Okay, so when you were first here, when did you really say to yourself, "I really love it here, and I'm glad I'm here"? And was it right away, or did you? I mean, because it had to have been some homesickness just because you're so used to St. Petersburg, or were you like, you know what, I'm out and that's it, and I'm happy?
Yeah, because I think the period between when I was an exchange student and then came back, and the things were going really from bad to worse in Soviet Union. And I know my parents said, I think you need to consider maybe try to go back, because there is no future there. So that's when I came to Iowa in '93 back to just visit my friends, and went back to college and say, hey, I'm graduating in spring. I'd like to apply for master's program. And that's what I did. So I applied for school and came back like 2 months later to go back to University of Northern Iowa College to get my master's degree.
Wow, that is an incredible story, from St. Petersburg to a master's degree. So that is
Yeah.
So if you
unbelievable.
hadn't come to America at that time and you had graduated in St. Petersburg, is there little opportunities to get jobs?
No, I think there's no private sector. I'm sure it's now. But I think to get a teaching job, I don't think it would have been a
it would've
problem.
been okay.
Interesting. How about the pay would have been different though compared to a paying job over here as a teacher?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
sure.
right.
I mean, inflation was so high, and when I went back to visit a couple times, one year you go and it's one money system. 2 years later, it's like lots of zeros added. Literally, I went to the store and I said, this is my money. Can you take what you need, because I can't understand this.
I actually do that when I go to Costa Rica. I say, how much, please take? And they're very nice, and they always...
But for me to do it, and they will look at me like I'm crazy, because they know they can see I can speak Russian, obviously, and then they're like, where are you coming from that you can understand? And it's like if you've been out for a while, you completely lose the touch of it. So it's like, okay, I don't know how much is this bread. Can you just take what you need?
Wait, but was the ruble? Is that what they used?
Ruble, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
They still
Yeah.
do that,
Rubles,
but
They do.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably wouldn't even recognize it, because they change it all the time.
All right, so my next question, I want to go back for a second,
Okay.
because I know it's obviously it's Communism Survivor, so we're talking about communism. What was your healthcare system like growing up? If you were a kid and you got sick, what'd you do? Did you get we have private insurance here, as we all know,
Obviously.
yeah. So, but
Right.
over there, it was, I'm assuming,
Socialized.
medicine?
Socialized, yeah. It's a free medical care. So, it's probably from, again, kids' point of view.
You don't remember as
I don't.
obviously, no.
I do remember that. Yeah, we'll go to the doctor, but what I kind of had to talk to my dad, ask what he remembers from that, and what his summary was. Yeah, you go to the doctor, it's free, which is true, but I do remember you can wait all day, like long lines, of course, and because of the doctors don't have enough. They don't spend quality time with the patient because it has to go fast. There's a lot
There's
of people
100
waiting
people
for you.
waiting, yeah.
And of course, I think the biggest one, what I remember, is there was no really equipment. We have very talented doctors there, and actually a lot of them immigrated to America. And even in Indian River County, I know several Russian doctors. They're talented, but over there they almost had to, figuratively speaking, operate with bare hands. The equipment, there was was no advanced equipment. So yeah, you had long lines. You don't have quality care because the doctors don't have time to spend time with you. But what I liked being a kid, I remember we did have house calls. So like, let's say you're a doctor working at the clinic. You come every day from, let's say, 8 to 4, whatever hours. So today you work from 10 till 2 in the office, but from 2 to 4 you're doing house calls for those who could make it to the clinic. And the next day it's opposite. Morning is house calls, afternoon is office. So for the kid, being a kid, that was helpful for my parents. If you have a high fever, you don't have to drag your kid to the doctor, which I think shocked me first when I got here. I'm like, you mean I have to?
I had to take my children to
take my kid to the doctor?
Blasphemy.
Yeah, with the fever. So that was this is in a way was a good thing to me.
That makes sense.
But I still always feel like, now looking from perspective being here, I think it always has to be a choice. Do you want to wait in long line and pay nothing, or maybe you'll pay more but you get quality care, surgery when you need it, and don't have to wait? So there's always, it's a matter of having a choice.
And the doctors seem to have limited resources and
Absolutely,
stuff
yeah.
to work with, where here we have a lot more innovation.
Again, you can go to this doctor, that doctor. Okay, you know what, this one is more advanced, has better reviews and has good equipment, and I'll go. I mean, it's all about choices, and I think that's the biggest difference between, of course, socialism and capitalism. You will have no choice in nothing.
I like it. All right, so now you're in Florida. You've
Yes.
left Iowa, and you have a family. I have remember that you're reading that. So you're raising kids now. Do you find that there was a difference raising them here than if you were back over in St. Petersburg raising them?
I never tried to
Okay,
raise
that's
them
over
there,
there,
so
I guess that's not a good question.
Yeah, it's
but
not. Yeah.
that's not my
Well, how
best
about
question.
putting them in school?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was very involved parent in school, so I think it was having 3 degrees in education,
Oh, yes.
2 bachelors and 1 master's. I was I don't know if teachers really liked me. I was very involved in the
Aggressive. Yeah, no,
education.
you
I
need
was,
to do that,
they
absolutely.
used to they went to Beachland School, both of them, for elementary, and I was there volunteering in the classrooms for both of them at least once a week for each class. So I was always there.
Excellent.
So I kind of knew what's going on, and I think in general it was good. I don't think there was any. I mean, what's happening right now with the
Yes.
education,
Yes,
what
we-
we read, that's scary. Likely for me, and my kids didn't go through that. It was fairly good. We had a fairly good experience.
Yeah, I went to public schools. I have no major complaints. I enjoyed it. You went to public schools growing up?
I did not. My mom was actually a public school teacher, and she
Oh.
saw the system and pulled me out and homeschooled me. So
Really? I did not
yes,
know
I was
that.
homeschooled.
Excellent.
I don't know if I could do that, even being,
Oh
being
no,
a
I know that my
teacher.
parents were like, get them out in the morning, and then we'll come back and get them in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But all right, so now you're in Florida,
Yes.
and you've been living here for a while, and I know you've been very active in the community. So my question now is, I don't want to phrase this correctly. Is the community, well, I don't really know if you'd have the experience, a little different here than it might have been back in St. Petersburg, or does St. Petersburg have did you have, there's a lot of clubs here that you can be a part
Yeah.
of. Did they have that in common when you would come? I don't know if you remember, though, because you were so young.
I don't think we had anything like that. I mean, social life was just going to friends, have parties, but I don't remember any philanthropy or having involved in charity organizations. I don't think we really had it. And, if I'm wrong, if anybody who would listen and say, no, that's not true, I just don't remember. I don't think we had anything like that.
Okay, and I do have to ask a question. This is for myself. Do you recall? Ignore that. Do you recall
Fix my
when
thing, so.
you were young? So one of the things I remember from childhood is when the American Olympic hockey team beat the Soviet Union in the big. Do you remember that at all, by any chance?
Vaguely remember, yes.
Okay, so was that big? Was the Soviet Olympic hockey team large over there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it was his.
So there was no really, like, in high school, there was no teams, but well, we don't, you guys call it professional sports. In Russia, it was never professional because our poor place
you're all
paid
playing,
nothing. They get paid nothing. But it was very big, like hockey, any Olympic sports. And I think our Olympic teams on all sports
Were
pretty
always-
much were pretty
always good,
advanced.
yes,
Always
no,
good.
always good,
Like
yes.
figure
Yes,
skating. I was
Yeah.
more into winter sports. I was like figure skating or hockey. They were pretty advanced. So, yeah, but they didn't get paid much for that.
No, there was okay. So this
Was there a lot of pressure from the government on them?
Oh yeah, yeah, and no, they could not ever like here. I know the athletes can sign contracts and get sponsorships. Nothing like this existed back in the 90s.
That's actually quite interesting. All right, so now you've been here. We're both.
2003, the hurricane.
Oh, yes,
Gene and
I
Francis,
remember
that's when we
them.
moved. 2004.
So
Poor timing.
you know, I know that now the country is changing in a crazy bunch of ways over the last few years, the pandemic
Yes.
even aside. I would like you to maybe just talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing today and how it might have affected you from things you've seen in the past.
So what I've seen recently, when we were growing back in Russia, we always had, of course, there was government controlled. You always had that fear of government. There's an intimidation factor. Let's say you go to some organization with the paperwork, whatever, and you're nervous because you're right, everything is correct, but they can turn you away or do something and deny or do whatever to you, and you have no way to say, no, I'm right, this is correct. And I feel that's what started happening here. And an example I'll tell you, in March, Jay and I had to travel to Kansas, and we are going to Orlando Airport, and we see a TSA agents with huge German Shepherd dogs at the airport. On the floor, there are two lines, a green, I think, or red, blue, and that TSA agent, like, literally barking orders. Stay on this line, you on red, you on blue, and those dogs are going between passengers. I don't know what they were sniffing for, drugs or whatever. And you have that fear, and I got goosebumps, and I said to Jay, that's like a deja vu going back 40 years, that you at the American airport and you're afraid that they will do something to you. They turn you away or say, no, you can't go. And you're scared because we'll remember that after January 6th, we all had kind of fear of what can happen, that somebody come to your house, get you, whatever. And you're right, but there's nothing you can do to change their opinion. So I think when I experienced that, and it wasn't just Orlando, then we landed in Denver and flew back from Denver, it was exact same situation. And the people have that feel like they have authority over you and they try to control. And when I've seen something like this, that scares me. That's just like and of course what's happening at schools, education system right now, and that cancel culture and, when government control people, the results, of course, woke companies and
Right.
that cancel culture. Again, we're like, wait a minute, that's right. That you shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. Dr. Seuss been forever. my kids were growing up on those books.
Yes,
Like,
we
what's
talk
wrong?
about this on protecting our freedoms a lot too.
Yeah, so
yes.
you feel like, what direction are we going? It's just that's a little scary, and young people, some of them say, oh yeah, they don't understand the social, like back to the doctors, you don't have a financial, it becomes like financial equality.
Or incentive for that matter too.
Yeah, so you get like, everybody gets the same paid, you have no way to advance. It's all that equality that they try to push it here. It's like, what is the incentive? And we can actually see recently people don't want to work
No,
Because
it
Yes.
doesn't. I know people don't want to admit this, but one of the reasons why people like capitalism is because those who can maybe work or might be a little smarter or whatever make more money and can live a better life. And I know some believe that that isn't fair. I'm not one of them, but a doctor. A lot of them a really smart person might say, you know what, if I'm not gonna become a doctor if I'm not gonna be making it, I'll just go do a lawyer, and then eventually we have no doctors. Not that I go to doctors that often, but still, they're very necessary and they're very, so.
you have to give people incentive to do things in life. I guess maybe I'm been here for too long in this country, but it's like that makes sense to me. Incentivize them, and
I think
That's
what
how-
you're both saying is the opportunity
Yes.
that's available here were not available there. So coming here, you have more opportunities for better pay.
Yeah.
You're not equal. Everybody doesn't get equal pay. You can, if you're doing a good job, you're going to get paid more. Or like Mark was saying, business-wise, if you want to open a business and you have enough capital and gumption, work hard.
yeah,
hard
back
work,
in
you're gonna
in
succeed.
80s, we never had private sector there. It
just
was
didn't
non-existent.
exist, yeah.
I know, like right now they do, and I haven't been back for almost 10 years, so I can't really say what's happening now. But it's like in the past there was no private sector. It's all equal.
Have you brought your family to Russia?
Yes. So
Have your kids been over there?
yes.
Because I'll tell you my brief communism survivor story of my own. So when I was in the 6th grade, I lived in Boston, as I've told many of you, and my father took a business trip, and then he brought my mother and my brother on, left my sisters home, and we went to China, communist China at the time. Now, my experience with the Chinese culture at the time was going to the Tahiti restaurant in Dedham, Massachusetts, where we would be greeted by a very nice Asian gentleman in a suit who would sit you down. And I loved it because I got a poo-poo platter, which would have the little fire in the middle, and then I could eat my steak teriyaki. And, as a kid, I could start a little fire with the stick. It was great.
Yeah.
So when I heard that I was going to China, the only thing going through my childhood mind was that I'm going to be knee-deep in poo-poo platters soon, and this is going to be the greatest thing ever. So the trip started, and we got to Hawaii, which was a lot of fun. And then we went to Hong Kong, which at the time was under British rule, and was I was a young boy, and God did Hong Kong nice. And then that was when I got my first introduction to communism, and that was on CAAC Airlines, the Chinese state-run airlines at the time. And I was coming over with Dad in first class on Pan Am, and when I got on CAAC, my response was, Dad, there must be something wrong with the tickets. Like, what's going on here? And then when I got into communist China, it was fascinating, don't get me wrong, but you could see that it was drab. It was, and the fear, like you said, of the government was there. So much so that we had 2 people that were with us at all times. And I could, even as a young person, see that he was nervous that he might at any point say the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one of the things I remember the most is we were at the Terracotta Warriors, which is in a city called Xi'an, and it's a famous tourist attraction. And our handler, if I get lack of a better word, asked me if I could read in English the sign. Now in 6th grade, any American child can read English. Even me. And so I, read it, and he went up to my father and he was like, your son just read that, from top to bottom. Is he gifted? And my father was like, what? No. I'm like, I don't know. Talk to his mother. But I found it to be, it was just such a different culture. So that is I wouldn't say survivor story, but that is how, when I saw it for the first time, I said to myself, I don't like communism. I don't think it's for me. So I enjoyed it much more when I was able to get home and get back to my Nintendo and my things that American children, even today, don't realize that aren't worldwide, So that's my communism.
Do you,
story.
in comparison to his story, do you recall from your childhood, children or people in general going around in fear, having that fear of the government?
I think we all always had it, like you go again to the airport, even when I was young, let's say when I'm traveling to Russia, you go through passport control, you hand them your passport, and you internally like worried, what if there's something wrong? When there's like one paper, there's something wrong, there's no visa. It's there, but you just internally know that they are the authority and they can do, turn you away. Yeah, fear of government is always there. Censorship, of course, it's like political pressure. You always have to worry about what to say, where to say. There's no freedom of speech. So there was again, no, right now, probably more now. But you will have to watch what to say, where to say, and and of course.
So it's kind of like Facebook, but alive.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, everybody on Facebook. I love you. Don't ban me. But it's kind of like that. So yeah,
Censorship
all right.
is
But
yeah,
it's-
absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So is it starting to look at all like that to you now with this censorship going on and the wokeness that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Are you seeing similarities?
Yeah, that's how I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, that's what exactly I start feeling we're heading in the wrong direction here. And I think many of us who came here don't want to see it here. That's the reason we
Why
came.
we're here, yeah.
Yeah, we don't, we wanted to live the way we were. We wouldn't have come here to begin with. So, yeah, that's definitely a concern.
There's nowhere else to go, is what I like to say to
Yeah,
people.
that's
Like,
it.
this is it. There's no other beacon of freedom and hope and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
correct.
all right.
We better fight for it.
We better fight for it, I guess.
better, yeah.
Absolutely. So do you have any further remarks you'd like to share with our audience on Communism Survivor, before we wrap it up, I think?
I think your questions were great, and I think I love that conversation flow. Of
Excellent. There
conversation,
is.
so
I did read your bio before you came
Okay.
on, and I did notice at one point that you were for charity, of course, because as you are now an American, you're getting right into charity. So you've
Yes.
become an American very fast.
you go.
I did hear you were on Dancing with the Stars. So my question to you is, what song did you dance to? Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
What was it?
Because it was actually my favorite movie, Dirty Dancing.
That was my, all right, okay. And you danced to
that final
Had the time.
of my life.
And who was your husband, your dance partner, or did you get
No,
partnered
that's
up with a
you
professional?
pair up with one of us. At least one of us should be professional.
Now, how far did you make it in the competition? Did you?
Well, it's the way.
Oh, it's for charity, so
for
it's kinda
charity. So
just-
like it's just a grand trophy, or you just there. I think there was like maybe a score, the best fundraising. So I think unless you for top 2 or 3, the rest is just the same. So there was 10 couples. So I didn't make it to the very top, but.
Interesting. So earlier you were when you were talking about before I know we're wrapping it up, but you were talking about Robin Williams in Moscow on the Hudson. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
What's your favorite brand? Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks?
I do it at home. I don't go to the coffee shops.
Okay,
first
but
of
if
all.
you were out and you had to, Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks?
Probably Starbucks.
America runs on Dunkin's, Alla. Come on.
Hey, actually, I don't really
I'm kidding.
care.
I know.
Any coffee would do it.
Mark, to save her there, she does own a ice cream
That's
shop.
true, by the way. That is, I forgot to mention that. Everybody, Alla owns an ice cream shop. And if you want to talk about escaping communism and sticking it in their face, opening an ice cream shop
There you
is
go.
as good as it comes. But did you tell me earlier you don't like ice cream?
No.
Oh, my God. Are you sure you're not a communist? Wait a minute.
Okay, I like any kind of the desserts. I
Okay.
love desserts. I just don't. I can eat ice cream, but I have to be really in the mood for that. Very rarely I do get. And if I do, it's like it cannot be soft from McDonald's or whatever. It has to be a
the
real
you
deal.
need. Yeah, I understand
A
that.
real deal, yeah.
All right. Well, Joy, do you have any follow-up or ending questions for
I think
Alla?
this has been great. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
opening our eyes to what it's like and
Thank you.
former
I
USSR.
want to just thank you for just telling us the story. It's often fascinating to me, and I think to viewers, to just hear about what life was like back then. I mean, I know from my experience growing up, we were taught I shouldn't say I was taught that like Russia was an enemy, but we always, during the Cold War, it was,
Yeah.
like the Russians were the enemies in the movies and, things like that. So in the end, though, it's all the people themselves aren't the governments. And I think that's a lesson that we all need to learn. But I also think we need to learn that we should listen to the folks who have survived it and
Yes.
not try to bring it here.
Please
No.
don't.
No,
No,
I
I-
don't want it
Bring
here.
No, not at all. Let's
No,
let's
don't
stick to ice cream
Yes.
and no military classes. We'll stick to dodgeball. Although I don't know what's worse, dodgeballs to the face or the AK-47 training. But anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining us today with Alla. It was a fantastic conversation here on Communism Survivor. We will be back. I'm not sure when, but we will be going to continue this great series on Communism Survivor. If you know somebody who might want to be a guest on our program, give us an email at info@ascf.us. And we will get right back to you. We thank you so much for tuning in, Alla. It was seriously a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
It was a great conversation.
Yes,
Joy,
Alla.
thank you as always for joining with me. And we will see you all soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.